At the start, a young man named Subaru, whose parents had both passed away, owned a car and a house and was a well-known mystery novelist. Despite his cold appearance, he was actually just socially anxious. He couldn't think clearly in crowded places, mainly because as a child, his classmates spoiled the endings of mystery novels he read. One day, while visiting his parents' graves with sashimi, a black cat suddenly appeared from behind the tombstone. The cat quickly ate the sashimi, and watching this little black cat, Subaru was struck with inspiration for a new novel about a killer kitty, which his editor approved. Subaru then took the little black cat home and began observing it secretly for creative inspiration. Unknowingly, he was becoming deeply attached to the cat. Meanwhile, his close friend Hiroto, having been robbed while traveling and finding his apartment flooded from a fire, came to Subaru's house looking for food and to deliver some local delicacies he had bought. Surprised, Hiroto found a little black cat in Subaru's home. Shocked that Subaru, who previously only cared about reading and writing, had taken in a cat. This made Hiroto feel proud, as if a child had grown up, and he promised to bring treats for the kitty next time. Subaru received cat-related information from his editor, who wanted to discuss the kitty. Subaru immediately interrupted him, stating that others' narratives would only cut off his own imagination. He rudely hung up the phone, leaving his editor in tearless despair, lamenting how someone so adorable could be so blunt. Another editor reminded him to be careful around the days leading up to Subaru's manuscript deadlines. Just after Subaru finished writing a section, he turned to find Kitty observing him from behind. He approached her, but she moved to another corner to watch him. Subaru noticed some scattered cat food at the door. Thinking it was trash, he picked it up and threw it in the bin. But Kitty immediately rushed to the bin to dig out the food. This inspired Subaru again. He imagined Kitty setting a trap for him, a trap meant to make him slip and fall to his death. He felt grateful that Kitty never hindered his writing. However, when he found cat food at the door a second time, Subaru felt something was off. He looked up cat behaviors in a book and discovered that cats bring food as a tribute to their leader. Was he now the leader of his killer kitty? Subaru decided to ignore little black cat's actions as his deadline was approaching. He sat at his desk and wrote intensely, reminiscent of a college student facing a deadline. He ignored Kitty scratching at the door and calls from his editor. When he finally looked up from his writing, it was dark outside. The noise at the door had grown louder. Opening the door, he found Kitty had pushed the entire bowl of cat food towards him. Before Subaru could react, everything went dark, and he collapsed on the floor, not even having sent the manuscript to his editor. When he woke up, it was already the next morning. A blanket was over him, but the cat food in the bowl was gone. His editor, worried because he hadn't answered his calls, had rushed to Subaru's house and even broke a window to get inside. As for the manuscript, it seems Subaru had sleepwalked and written a few pages that were lying nearby. The editor suggested Subaru go to the hospital. Subaru knew he was just hungry and sleep-deprived. He asked the editor what it meant if someone repeatedly brought food to him. The editor's eyes lit up with curiosity and said it definitely meant they were concerned about him. He advised Subaru to ask the person directly. After replacing the window, Subaru sent the editor away. Kitty was also watching Subaru closely. She had joined the household looking for a long-term meal ticket. Although Subaru fed her every day, he often got so absorbed in his books that he neglected to eat or drink. Kitty, a female with several siblings, remembered what her foster sister had taught her: to repay kindness received. That's why she shared her cat food with Subaru. Such a heart-touching act from a cat made one want to cherish her. However, Subaru had thrown away the food, angering Kitty. She and her siblings often went from feast to famine, so she decided once Subaru finished eating, she would leave the home. But Subaru never touched the cat food until she pushed the entire bowl towards him. When she found Subaru collapsed, just like her deceased sibling, Kitty clutched at his sleeve and the cat food. Driven by a survival instinct, Subaru actually grabbed the cat food and started eating frantically. After finishing his food and furiously writing, Subaru collapsed again. Kitty, feeling his warm temperature, breathed a sigh of relief. She had planned to repay the favor and then leave, but seeing Subaru's shaky steps made her worry about him. Subaru, looking at the cat by his feet, remembered the editor's words and took a can of cat food from the cupboard. Kitty had tasted this before and immediately meowed eagerly at his feet. Subaru was deeply touched. Despite being so hungry herself, she had shared her food with him. He opened the can for her, and the resolute Kitty decided she would stay here and live off him. After getting a cat, you'll end up with a cat-operated computer. Kitty sleeps on the computer, and when Subaru tries to move her, she just rolls over and continues sleeping. Subaru plans to lure her down with cat food, but he's run out. Online orders won't arrive today, and as someone with social anxiety, Subaru really doesn't want to go out. Yet, seeing Kitty clinging to the computer, he braces himself and heads to the local convenience store to buy cat food, only to find they're out of cans too. He buys bread instead, but then realizes that Kitty probably won't eat it. Fortunately, there's a pet store across from the convenience store. Inside, Subaru has no idea how to choose cat food. Luckily, a store clerk approaches and asks for a name to help pick the cat food. Subaru is surprised, thinking they need personal details to buy cat food, so he says his name is Subaru. The clerk smiles and asks how old little Subaru is, clearly asking about the cat. But Subaru thinks she's asking about him and says he's 23. The clerk remarks that 23 isn't young, leaving Subaru quite taken aback. She brings a sample for little Subaru to try, and after a moment, they both realize they were talking at cross purposes. Subaru, embarrassed and toe-curling, hurries to pay and leave after the clerk apologizes and suggests naming his cat, noting that they're family now. At that moment, his editor calls to say his novel is selling well and asks if Subaru has thought of a name for the cat. Puzzled why everyone is obsessed with names, Subaru learns from the editor that he meant the cat's name in the novel. He decides to think it over. Just then, his friend Hiroto arrives through the back door with food made by his mother, planning to ask Subaru next time what Kitty's name is. After losing his parents, Subaru no longer had anyone he wanted to talk to. He couldn't understand why people named their pets since they couldn't converse with them. Seeing others so close to their pets, Subaru decided to just go home and continue writing. However, the idea of naming nagged at him. Since he had eaten a bit of Kitty's cat food, he thought about naming her Just a Bite. But Subaru wasn't like a doting pet parent. He decided to let Kitty choose her own name. He recited various names, waiting for a response, but got none all afternoon. It wasn't until Subaru noticed a picture book his mother used to read to him that he thought of the moon, which represented his name, and the moon and the sun were friends. He subconsciously said Haru, and Kitty actually responded. It then struck Subaru that he hadn't fed Kitty yet. Seeing her pounce on the food hungrily, he decided to go out and buy more cat food. Before leaving, he called out the name Haru and blushed when she responded, joking, "Oh, are you blushing? Let me see." Originally, Kitty slept on the laptop because it was warm. When Subaru left and Kitty noticed the cat food was gone, she saw Hiroto coming to deliver food and mistakenly thought he had eaten her cat food, so she immediately hid. In her drowsiness, she dreamt of a little girl feeding her, named Haru, leading Kitty to associate Haru with mealtime. When Subaru called out Haru, she perked up immediately. After a good meal, she nuzzled against Subaru, hoping for more. But when Subaru called Haru again and then left, Kitty was left wondering, "Where's my food? My food?" Although Subaru named Kitty, he still wasn't used to living with a cat. Kitty was too lively, always jumping around the house and using his stomach as a trampoline. She even knocked over the incense ash. But what fault was it of Kitty's? She was just a cute cat after all. While cleaning his room, Subaru received a call from his editor about discussing some matters offline. The editor initially planned to meet at a cafe with robotic servers, but changed his mind when he learned that Subaru's yard attracted many cats, revealing his true nature as a cat lover. He decided to come to Subaru's house immediately. Subaru's parents loved traveling, but he preferred reading and rarely left home after they passed away. The editor hurried over, only to find the cats in the yard had been chased away, which saddened him. However, he perked up upon seeing Haru. He claimed he was there to discuss the manuscript but was secretly trying to pet the cat. Unable to catch the elusive Haru, the editor decided that all future meetings should be held at Subaru's house. Subaru thought it wasn't so bad not having to go out, but when the editor started showing up daily on time, Subaru realized something was off. Was the editor here to work or just to play? The editor, with a slap on his chest, ensured there was no problem. He had brought all his work over, leaving his department's workstations in tears. He told Subaru he loved cats but couldn't keep one because his wife was allergic. The editor asked if he could hold Kitty. Subaru mentioned that he had only touched Kitty once since bringing her home. The editor tried to pet her but got swiped by Kitty's paw. However, he wasn't upset and even planned to come back the next day. Subaru sighed, wondering why Kitty couldn't just ignore the editor. He remembered how he felt forced into crowds by teachers at school. Just then, he realized his ink was gone. Thinking it over, he entered his father's room to look for ink. Although his parents had passed away, the familiar scene still brought back memories of them. Just then, Kitty walked in and accidentally knocked over a photo album on the desk. As Subaru picked up the album, he thought of his mother. Opening it, he found many notes densely packed inside, written by his mother. Next to the photos, she had written notes like, "This is the old house of Subaru's favorite author. It's too crowded during the day. We can bring Subaru here at night." Unfortunately, there was a bus accident that day. Subaru never understood why his parents were so keen on traveling, but seeing the notes in the album, he realized their true desires, now irrevocably changed by their absence. Tears streamed down his face, and Kitty came up and licked his cheek. With tears in his eyes, Subaru stroked Kitty's head and realized how comforting the warmth of the cat was. Kitty had grown fond of this place. However, it always saw strange things around Subaru and would often jump around him, trying to chase these things away. But those were actually the souls of Subaru's parents. Kitty accidentally knocked over a photo, startling Subaru, who scolded it. When Kitty followed him into the room and saw the souls still there, it tried to swipe at them. Looking down, Kitty saw Subaru crying over the photos. Thinking he was scared by the souls, Kitty licked his face to comfort him, promising to protect him like family. Subaru didn't know what Kitty was thinking. He simply reached out and stroked Kitty's head. Kitty felt the warmth of his hand and nuzzled against him. After Subaru fell asleep, Kitty noticed the two pink orbs had returned. Surprisingly, they coalesced into the forms of Subaru's parents, thanked Kitty, and then left. Soon after, the editor arrived at Subaru's house, worried because he hadn't answered his phone. Seeing the editor soaked yet concerned about him, Subaru was about to express his gratitude when the editor saw Kitty and immediately forgot everything else. Subaru was enjoying his own world when Hiroto unexpectedly brought over some stew. Before work, Edit stopped by to see Kitty and mentioned that Subaru hadn't bought a collar for her yet. Subaru didn't see the importance, but Edit explained that a collar signifies ownership and helps others contact Subaru if Kitty gets lost. So, Hiroto accompanied Subaru to buy a collar. As soon as they entered the store, Hiroto noticed the pretty store clerk knew Subaru and left him under her care, giving a supportive look before leaving. This was a real assist. However, Subaru was very shy. Luckily, the clerk was patient and explained which collars were better, and informed Subaru that cats often dislike collars. The key was whether Subaru's cat could adapt. Knowing Haru was a female, the clerk recommended a cute collar, then attended to other customers. At first, Subaru didn't care much, thinking any collar he liked would do, but then he thought of his mother. Subaru then seriously began choosing the right collar for Kitty. While paying, an elderly woman struck up a conversation with him. Despite his social anxiety, Subaru responded naturally when the topic was about cats. The woman's cat was old and sometimes needed medical checkups, which made Subaru realize Kitty might need checkups too. The clerk, hearing he hadn't visited a vet, recommended a pet hospital and also pitched a pet carrier. Subaru took Kitty to the vet for a checkup. The doctor noted that the stray cat was a bit overweight and advised Subaru not to overfeed her just because she was cute, as being too heavy could be harmful to her health. However, the doctor suggested that Subaru himself should eat more, pointing out that he looked very thin. Subaru felt helpless. He hadn't been giving Kitty any treats. Other cat owners at the clinic were chatting about how stray cats, once adopted, tend to eat all the cat food given to them. Subaru suddenly remembered how he would overfill Kitty's bowl when busy with deadlines, worrying he wouldn't have time to refill it later, only to find it empty again and reflexively refilling it. Now he understood why she was so overweight. Just as Subaru was eavesdropping on how other cat owners manage their cats' diets, a staff member called him over to settle the bill. After paying, Subaru saw Kitty get startled by a golden retriever. He quickly picked up Kitty and ran off before the dog's owner could apologize. However, he recognized the owner. They were neighbors. Exhausted, Subaru was about to enter his house when the pet store clerk, the same girl, passed by. It turned out she lived nearby. She asked about Kitty's condition, and Subaru mentioned she was a bit overweight. The girl nodded, saying her cat had also recently returned to a normal weight. Subaru immediately asked how she managed her cat's diet. He realized it was the end of her workday and thought she might not respond, but to his surprise, she agreed to help him. This showed Subaru that interacting with others isn't always so difficult. Sometimes it just takes a little push, like having pets in common. Subaru let Kitty out and tried to put a collar on her, but initially failed. After feeding her a small amount of cat food, he finally managed to get the collar on her. The red bow tie suited Kitty well, and she showed no signs of stress. During the day, when Kitty was taken to the pet hospital, other cats were visibly scared. However, Haru mustered up the courage to protect Subaru. She was startled when the vet handled her, wondering if all humans treated their pets this way. Just as Kitty was feeling lost, a golden retriever appeared, startling her. The golden retriever told Kitty it had always wanted to be friends and mentioned a kind lady at Subaru's house who hadn't been seen for a while. The dog liked the hospital because it had healed from a foot injury there. It explained that Subaru brought Kitty to the hospital, likely out of concern for her health. As Kitty was pondering this, Subaru, thinking the golden retriever had scared her, quickly picked her up and ran off. Kitty didn't mind wearing the collar. She had seen other kitties with collars and always admired a particularly pretty one, thinking that having a similar bell would make her beautiful as well. Happy, Kitty rolled around on the ground, ringing the bell incessantly until Subaru had to remove it. The pet store clerk, named Nana, thought Kitty wasn't that overweight and could slim down with a little effort. However, she was alarmed when she saw the amount of food Subaru was giving Kitty and immediately told him to stop. She explained that stray cats tend to eat as much as they are given due to their greedy nature. Nana then showed Subaru the correct portion size. She warned that suddenly reducing Kitty's food could stress her, so she suggested using a small bottle with just the right amount of cat food and a small hole. Kitty could play with the bottle and scratch out the food, eating slowly and getting some exercise, which is an excellent method for weight loss. Nana showed Subaru photos of her own cats before and after their diet. They looked like two different cats. Nana had two cats, a fat one named Roku and a new milk-colored one named Hachi. Subaru noticed that the cat's behaviors and expressions resembled Nana's. She nodded, agreeing that people often say pets subconsciously learn from their owners. Subaru recalled how his mother used to tease him and his father for having identical gestures while reading books or newspapers. He sometimes wondered if his mother, who loved pets so much, would have made their home even livelier had she been alive. After Nana left, Subaru found that she had left her keys behind. Kitty was playing with the feather on the keychain, its paws tangled with the feathers. Subaru initially planned to wait for Nana to come back for them after realizing they were missing, but remembering the helpful advice she had given, he decided to take action. Holding Kitty, he rushed out to return the keys to Nana. Seeing the situation, Nana decided to go home and get scissors to cut the keys free from Haru's paws. Because the keys were tangled in Haru's claws, Subaru had no choice but to carry Haru with him to Nana's house. Haru confidently entered Nana's home and immediately started tussling with her cat, Hachi, even biting Hachi's neck, which scared Subaru. He quickly apologized to Nana, but she assured him it was fine, saying the cats were just playing and weren't hurt. Subaru noticed that when Nana called Hachi's name, Kitty would come to her side. However, he only got a joyful response from Haru when he called her name at mealtimes. Feeling that Kitty couldn't communicate with humans, Nana told him that communication could be achieved through other means and that the most important thing was to try to express oneself. Encouraged, Subaru called Haru's name, and this time the cat actually came to him. Subaru happily picked up Kitty, who seemed very comfortable and rubbed against his shoulder. Lately, Kitty felt that many strangers had been coming into the home. When Nana visited, Kitty decided to observe this new guest closely, only to end up being thoroughly entertained by a plastic bottle. Kitty enjoyed it immensely and was also well fed. After Nana left, Kitty smelled a familiar scent on the feathers of the keychain and refused to let it go. Later, Subaru took Haru to Nana's house. There, Haru was joyfully tackled by her brother, whom she then nipped at the neck. She had thought she would never see her brother again, and was surprised to find him alive and well. Learning that Nana had rescued her brother and seeing him clean and healthy, Haru realized that Nana was a good person. Her brother explained that when people called her Haru, they were saying her name, not just calling her for meals. So the next time Subaru called her name, Kitty thought about it and walked over to him, receiving a big hug just like her brother had said. A name meant they were special to their owner. Little Paba noticed his sister was happy. Kitty, acting coy, jumped down, indicating she wanted to take care of Subaru. Just then, Subaru bumped his head on the door, and at that moment, Nana's brother returned. Nana's brother mistakenly thought Subaru was a creep breaking into his sister's house. Subaru was quite upset until Nana quickly had her brother apologize. Realizing his mistake, Nana's brother Yugo immediately admitted his error. While Nana looked for scissors, Subaru and Yugo sat facing each other, which was extremely uncomfortable for Subaru due to his social anxiety. However, seeing Hachi fond of Yugo, Subaru thought he must be a good person. Yugo admired Haru, thinking she was a handsome cat. Nana came with scissors to trim Haru's nails. Just as Subaru thought everything was settled and was ready to leave, he noticed a familiar magazine in Yugo's open backpack. It was the magazine where his serial novel was published. Yugo, seeing Subaru looking at the magazine, took out a book and told him about a story it featured about a cat becoming an assassin, which somewhat resembled Subaru's Haru. Nana mentioned how much Yugo liked that story. While Subaru was pleased, his social anxiety made it hard for him to handle the praise, and he felt like he was about to dig his toes through the floor. Embarrassed, Subaru quickly said goodbye, holding Haru. Nana caught up to apologize again and invited Subaru to bring his cat over any time. This was the first time Subaru realized his novel could touch others so deeply, and honestly, he felt quite happy about it. Haru met Roku, Nana's cat, at her house. Surprisingly, Roku's voice was very magnetic. Roku, also a former stray cat adopted by Nana, felt very secure here. Seeing Hachi paw at Yugo, Haru was a bit worried, but Roku assured him there was no need to fear. As the elder of the two cats, Roku would protect them. Demonstrating this, Roku playfully tumbled into Yugo's arms, proving Yugo was a good person. Roku took care of Haru because she was Hachi's sister and thus considered family. As Subaru and Haru left, Roku told Hachi they would return again. Haru was one of 5 kittens abandoned in a cardboard box. When the frightened kittens scattered, they were found by the area's leader, a cat named Tiger Sister. Seeing Haru protecting her siblings, Tiger Sister took extra care of her. Haru also knew Black Cat, who one day bit her neck to warn her of an impending crow attack. Black Cat had lost an eye to a crow himself. Later, 2 of Haru's siblings were found by a kind family who took them in. Haru and the other 2 kittens remained with Tiger Sister and Black Cat. When they encountered crows again, the 2 adult cats told the kittens to run away. The 3 kittens quickly fled the scene. Haru decided to go out and find food for her younger siblings. But when she returned, one of the kittens had been fatally injured by a crow and never woke up. The other kitten who escaped was Hachi, who was eventually rescued by Nana. Fortunately, Hachi found a new family, and she met Subaru. Not long after, Subaru received a fan letter sent by an editor, among which was one from Yugo. The editor informed Subaru that they needed to choose a new cover for his novel because it was about to be released as a standalone book. Moreover, the bookstore wanted Subaru to attend a book signing event. Upon hearing this, Subaru immediately refused. At that time, Hiroto came to visit Subaru with his younger siblings. The younger children, having heard that Subaru had a cat, insisted on seeing it. Hiroto, having finished work early today, brought them over, along with a high school-age sister. When Edit heard about looking for the cat, he tried to join in, but Subaru made him stay and continue working. Still, Edit was distracted. Eventually, Subaru let him off the hook. Hiroto checked Subaru's fridge and guessed he had eaten only 1 meal from yesterday to today, so he reluctantly ordered Chinese takeout. It was a good opportunity for everyone to have a meal at Subaru's place. Watching the lively children, Subaru was not used to interacting with them and went to the kitchen alone to prepare. Suddenly, he realized he might not have enough cups. Hiroto's sister offered to help, and Subaru remembered that his mother had bought a set of teacups for when guests came over. As Subaru pondered what kind of tea the children might like, Hiroto's sister suddenly asked him for book recommendations. Subaru, who liked many books, was unsure how to respond. After some thought, he walked out the door, and Hiroto's sister thought she might have been too forward and upset him. However, Subaru returned with a novel that he had enjoyed at her age. Hiroto's sister was thrilled. Afterwards, Subaru joined the children for a lively meal. Edit even started a game of hide-and-seek with the kids at home. The children, being quite forward, insisted on including Subaru in their play. As someone with social anxiety, Subaru was reluctantly drawn into the group of kids. Although it was noisy, the children were well behaved. At their departure, they affectionately hugged Subaru, nearly exhausting him completely. Later, as he collapsed on the balcony, his cat quietly snuggled up beside him and fell asleep with its head against his neck. While Subaru disliked unexpected disruptions in his life, he admitted that such lively moments were actually quite nice. He decided to reconsider attending the book signing event. Turning back to Haru, upon waking, she saw twins in front of her and thought Hiroto had come to deal with her with his younger brother. The youngest sister hugged Haru, who was about to scratch, but then remembered Tiger Sister's advice that children are fragile and need to be protected. No wonder cats respect the old and love the young, but still playfully fight with those in the middle. Interestingly, the restaurant that delivered their food turned out to be the one owned by a girl who had previously fed Haru. After eating, Haru played with the children and was teased by a feather brought by Edit. Once everyone had left, Haru was almost too tired to move. Although she knew she should always be alert, lying next to Subaru, Haru felt safe, and they both had a good sleep. Watching Kitty nap, Subaru decided to rest as well. He dreamed about his childhood, recalling a picture book his mother read to him about the sun and the moon. One day they stopped meeting each other and began living on opposite schedules. Subaru loved this story so much that he even redrew the picture book himself. One day, Hiroto's family moved to the street and made a point of visiting the neighbors. Hiroto and his sister came along. Although Subaru knew Hiroto, they were not close initially. Hiroto was an energetic boy who quickly made friends with other local children. Then one day, when Hiroto's mother went to the hospital, Hiroto temporarily stayed at Subaru's house waiting for her to return. That's when he discovered Subaru had many books, and Subaru's dream was to become a book creator, specifically a novelist, not just someone who worked in a printing factory, and he achieved this. When his parents were still around, Subaru had already started writing. Both his mother and father had read his works, which embarrassed Subaru greatly. However, their anticipation encouraged him to write seriously. His submissions later won a major award and led to a single-volume publication. Subaru woke from his dream to find Haru missing. Suddenly, there was noise outside. He looked out to see Hiroto arriving with ingredients, and more surprisingly, Hiroto brought out a picture book that Subaru had drawn as a child. It turned out Hiroto had lent it to his younger brother, although Subaru had no recollection of ever lending it out. Hiroto mentioned that Subaru gets so absorbed in books that he becomes oblivious to his surroundings. As a child, he even fell into a river while reading, and his first reaction was to save the book, which made people think he was quite odd. Feeling a bit embarrassed, Subaru reached for the cat food to feed Haru. Hiroto, now intrigued, asked Subaru a hypothetical question. If he were to fall into the river with Haru on his head and a book in his hand, who would he save first? Subaru hesitated between the book and Haru, which was actually a significant improvement for him. Suddenly, Haru pounced and clung to Subaru's face, making Subaru feel unwell. Then, everything went black, and he collapsed. When Subaru regained consciousness, Hiroto was sitting beside him, and Edit had rushed in with supplies. It turned out that Edit had arrived for a visit just as Subaru fainted. Finding Subaru slightly feverish, Edit skillfully took out fever medicine and water, changed his towel, and advised Subaru to change into looser clothing. After Hiroto checked Subaru's temperature and remarked repeatedly, he noted that Edit had a motherly aura. The two then left to make porridge for Subaru. Meanwhile, Haru squeezed through the door crack into the room and fiercely lay on top of Subaru, watching him sleep. When Haru woke up, she found Subaru lying next to her. Deciding to find some food so that Subaru would have something to eat upon waking, Haru skillfully pried open a cupboard. Unexpectedly, a small can rolled out. Haru remembered this can as being particularly tasty. While she was fiddling with another can in the corner, she accidentally got her head stuck in an empty can. In her panic, Haru snagged the carpet and narrowly avoided having her tail stepped on by Hiroto, who was entering the room. Seeing Subaru wake up, Haru felt regretful for not having the food ready. Just as she jumped down, she saw Subaru fall. Mistaking it as her fault, Haru went to Subaru's room, deciding to protect him and let him sleep peacefully. Early one morning, Haru felt something was amiss. Subaru, who usually spent hours reading from morning to night, unexpectedly got up early to go out. Haru found a corner to sleep in. After waking up well-rested and fed, Haru realized that Subaru had not yet returned. She searched everywhere for any sign of Subaru, even crawling into the bed where he usually slept. It was then that she understood the feeling of loneliness described by the golden retriever next door. By evening, Haru thought Subaru had returned, but it turned out to be the family of the neighbor's golden retriever. Unable to wait any longer for Subaru, Haru became frustrated and started throwing tantrums and causing destruction at home. Meanwhile, Subaru was at a book signing event, feeling very nervous in front of a large crowd of readers. He was eager to finish signing and rush home. In his nervousness, his signatures were uneven, but surprisingly, the readers were thrilled, thanking him profusely as they left with their books. Amid the praise, Subaru began to lose himself, and with Edit by his side, he was able to fill in the gaps when he occasionally gave incomplete answers. At that moment, a young reader expressed how much he liked Subaru's books and wished to shake his hand. Impressed by the boy's courage, Subaru stood up and shook his hand, thanking him for supporting his novels. Subaru then felt regretful for not properly thanking the previous readers. Edit, seeing his progress, was truly moved. Noticing it was getting late, Edit checked if there were any other readers around. Subaru, realizing he had much support, felt very grateful. However, he was also worried about Haru back at home. At that moment, Edit brought over another reader. To Subaru's surprise, it was Nana. Both she and her brother Yugo were fans of Subaru's novels. Neither had expected such a coincidence, leading both to feel extremely awkward. They each mistakenly thought the other might dislike them, so they simultaneously apologized. Nana thought Subaru had left because he overheard them talking about his novel and was upset. Subaru quickly explained that he was actually very happy about it. Edit, meanwhile, started to enjoy the drama unfolding. After signing for Nana, Subaru suddenly remembered he had forgotten to thank her. He had thought about doing it later, but felt it would be a pity not to express his gratitude on the spot. Despite his social anxiety, Subaru loudly called out to thank Nana, marking some progress. He also politely thanked Edit for the support, which moved Edit to tears. After saying goodbye to Edit, Subaru returned home. Intending to go to bed early after a tiring day, he found his home in complete disarray. He first thought there had been a burglary, but after some thought, realized there was nothing of value to steal, except worrying about Haru. Once he found Haru was fine, Subaru realized that the chaos was Haru's doing. With the kitty being so adorable, how could he be angry? Subaru resignedly refilled Haru's food and began to grudgingly clean up the mess. When Subaru woke up, he saw a message from Hiroto sent the previous night. Hiroto's twin sister was planning to bring friends over the next day and asked Subaru to reply in advance if he was unavailable. However, by the time Subaru woke up, they were already at the door. The guest brought by the twin sister was a Chun from the Chinese restaurant, who had brought a gift for Subaru, food made by her mother. Subaru hadn't eaten yet, and the delicious smell of the food made Haru rush out. Achun hadn't seen Haru in a long time and reminded Subaru that cats shouldn't eat human food because it's too salty and could harm them. She had brought some ingredients specifically to make a dish for Haru that she had prepared before. After Subaru agreed, Achun started cooking while teaching him. She quickly made a cat-friendly meal and called Haru to eat together. The twin sister asked Subaru why he wasn't eating properly. Achun said she understood the struggle as her family was often busy, and she usually ate alone. Sometimes she would wait for her parents, and by the time they arrived, the food would be cold. After Haru started hanging around her house, Achun and her mother learned to make cat food so Haru could keep her company while eating. Since her family ran a restaurant, they couldn't keep pets, but having Haru around helped her eat on time. Pets remind you to eat when you feed them. The sister asked Achun if she was going to inherit the family restaurant. Achun replied that her cooking skills were not up to standard yet. However, Subaru thought the food was delicious. After Haru had eaten and drunk to her satisfaction, she went straight to sleep. Eventually, Subaru saw the two children off and asked Achun if she could teach him how to cook for Haru. Achun was delighted and offered to write him a recipe. The next day, Subaru received a very cute recipe, just as Haru watched him from his feet. Subaru decided to go to the supermarket to buy some ingredients. As soon as he took out the recipe, a little girl exclaimed how cute it was, making Subaru shyly hide the cookbook. However, the supermarket was a battleground for housewives and salespeople. Subaru got pushed around and was about to just buy some meat when a salesperson grabbed him and he ended up with a basket full of meat. Luckily, he ran into Hiroto before checking out. Hiroto called his sister, who confirmed that they only needed ordinary chicken breast. Hiroto then helped Subaru return the previous items and took him back home, leaving Subaru tearfully grateful. Back at home, Subaru decided to cook. He ended up whittling a radish down to a tiny piece and cut his fingers several times during the process. Despite the setbacks, Subaru never gave up. Thinking of making food for the cat, he decided to cook his own portion as well. After a lot of effort, he finally made the cat's meal, but Haru did not eat it immediately. Subaru felt disappointed, thinking he had done poorly. However, just as he was about to eat, Haru began eating the cat food he made. It seemed his efforts had paid off after all. Speaking of Haru, she woke up early in the morning worried that Subaru hadn't eaten. She finally smelled something delicious and first thought about what Subaru could eat. After Achun finished making the cat food, Haru happily ate a large meal. Only after finishing did she remember that she hadn't left any for Subaru and felt very regretful. When she approached Subaru, she found out he was eating even more than she had, which relieved her. The next day, noticing that Subaru still hadn't eaten, Haru decided to remind him where the cat food was located. Despite her hints, Subaru still didn't eat. Feeling helpless, Haru planned to share her food with him the next time he fed her. So, when Subaru brought out the cat food, Haru didn't pounce on it right away. She only happily started eating after she saw Subaru eating as well. Subaru's novel, Cat Killer, was very popular. Edit reminded him that it was time to start a new chapter. So, Subaru pondered day and night for a month but couldn't come up with a new plot. One day, while watering, he got distracted and accidentally soaked the golden retriever in the next yard. Subaru quickly apologized to the neighbor, Auntie, who said it was no problem and mentioned that she had previously helped take care of the flowers in his yard. Subaru didn't even know when those flowers had been planted. Auntie explained that they were brought back by Subaru's mother from various places she visited, hoping to show Subaru the world outside. Each place's flowers were chosen based on Subaru's favorite colors and scents. His parents truly adored him. After Auntie and the golden retriever left, Subaru found Edit at the door. Edit informed Subaru that a boy was looking for him. When Subaru peeked outside, Yugo slid forward, apologizing. Since discovering Subaru was his favorite author, Yugo had wanted to apologize for previously offending him, but lacked the courage until today. He expressed his admiration for Subaru's novels and promised his continued support. Subaru felt slightly embarrassed by Yugo's earnestness. He realized that the people around him were very kind and that his life had changed since meeting Haru. After Yugo left in the afternoon, Edit asked Subaru if he had any ideas for the new manuscript. Seeing Subaru disheartened, Edit suggested going out for a walk to clear his mind. Normally, Subaru would have immediately refused, but today, touched by his mother's efforts to plant flowers for him and Yugo's support, he decided to go out and enjoy the scenery, though he hadn't decided where exactly to go yet. As Subaru walked to the courtyard, he noticed an empty flower pot, realizing it represented a place his parents had not managed to visit. He contacted Edit to express his desire to visit Tokushima Prefecture. Edit booked a hotel and flight for him. When asked what to do about Haru, Subaru remembered the chaos from the other day and decided to ask Nana if there was a way to board cats. Nana recommended a pet hotel, but Haru was reluctant to enter the cat carrier, likely remembering the last trip to the vet. In the end, Subaru had to ask Hiroto to make sure Haru had enough cat food. Edit called to ask which hotel Subaru preferred. One of them was the hotel his parents had planned to visit initially. Subaru chose that one immediately. Upon his arrival at the accommodation, the innkeeper recognized Subaru's name, asking if he was the one who had made a reservation 3 years ago. Due to the rarity of Subaru's family name and the fact that a travel agency had canceled the reservation, the innkeeper remembered the incident. He told Subaru that the booking was for 3 people, as his parents had been waiting for Subaru to agree to join them on the trip. Subaru decided to visit a nearby attraction known for its indigo dyeing. This indigo dyeing, it's not some kind of death god, is it? He joked. In reality, it was just a local dyeing craft. Seeing the blue fabrics hanging in the sky, Subaru realized his parents probably wanted him to see such scenery. But now, they couldn't answer any of his questions anymore. It reminded him to cherish the people around him. Fortunately, he still had Haru's company. And back home, the cat was waiting for his return. Before leaving Tokushima Prefecture, Subaru decided to take some flowers with him. However, the flower shop was in the opposite direction of the airport. Upon hearing this, the shop owner's mother decided to pick a plant from the garden to give to Subaru. But when Subaru arrived at the airport with the flower, the flights were suspended due to a thunderstorm. Unable to catch his flight, Subaru boarded the Shinkansen instead, facing at least a 4-hour journey home. He called Hiroto to ask him to check on Haru, only then checking the weather report to learn it was also raining heavily at home. Haru, watching the storm outside, remembered 2 frightened younger siblings and worried that Subaru couldn't return home due to fear. Just then, the back door opened. A typhoon was blowing and Hiroto struggled to close it. Fearing Subaru might not make it back, Haru decided to go out and look for him. Hiroto, realizing the cat was missing, immediately called his friends for help. Subaru, upon receiving the news, asked Hiroto to wait at home, suspecting Haru might return. Preparing to search for Haru himself and chilled by the thought of an accident, Subaru began asking strangers for help, despite his usual social anxiety. He continued his search in the stormy weather without any luck. Meanwhile, Edit called to say he had received Hiroto's message after work and decided to come over to help watch the house, suggesting Subaru and Hiroto, who knew the area well, team up to find the cat. He also reminded Subaru to check the places where lost cats are likely to go. Just then, Subaru's phone battery died. He had no choice but to seek Nana at the pet store for advice. After hearing about the situation, Nana immediately helped Subaru analyze it. She then joined Yugo in searching for Haru around the area. They placed cat food at the doorstep to attract the kitty and checked places where Haru had previously found food. Subaru hurried to the restaurant owned by Achun's family and then went to his parents' graveyard, the first place he had seen Haru. At that time, Haru was blown into a ditch by the typhoon, trapped in a crevice, but not falling into the water. As it began to panic, Subaru's voice calling out nearby calmed it. Haru meowed loudly, and Subaru followed the sound to find Haru. Just as he grabbed Haru by the neck, he slipped and fell into the ditch. Instinctively, he lifted the cat above the water, just as he would protect a beloved book. Relieved that Haru was unharmed, Subaru exhaled as Haru licked his cheek. The heavy rain stopped, but Subaru realized he was stuck in the ditch. Fortunately, Hiroto and the others found them nearby. Seeing Subaru lift the kitty to hand it over, Hiroto couldn't help but remark on how soft-hearted Subaru truly was. Eventually, everyone returned home where Edit had prepared dinner. Subaru took a shower and changed clothes, while Haru, under the care of Nana and Yugo, enjoyed a warm bath. The group relaxed and enjoyed a hearty meal together. Subaru saw off his friends, expressing his gratitude to them. Haru was extremely worried just now, and even more so when Subaru took a fall. He feared Subaru would catch a cold if they stayed out any longer. Only when Yugo helped Subaru out did Haru finally relax. Once home, Nana gave Haru a thorough scrub in warm water. Seeing Subaru eating seriously at home, Haru happily continued munching on its canned food. Subaru also realized that his life had changed since he met Haru. Now all the friends he knew were connected through Haru. Subaru planted the flowers he brought back in the garden. His new writing project, inspired by family themes, continued this story. He and Kitty were gradually getting used to living their lives together,